And then go ahead and close your eyes. Find your breath. And settle in. That's often what it actually feels like to me. When I'm out in the world or even in my own home, sort of chatting with other people or noticing, thinking of something that isn't happening right here, right now, I hardly notice how I'm standing or how I'm seated. But then when we come to this moment, when we get to practice together and I sit down on the mat, and it's like a switch. I can close my eyes, and on my next exhale, I can feel myself sort of grounding into this spot. Grounding my body, my hips towards the floor. Securing my place in the room. Securing my place on the planet. And settling in. And while my physical body may get me to that spot, I really feel like it's the breath that helps keep me there. If I can focus my mind, my attention on my breath, I will always be present. Because my breath is always with me. And only with me here and now. So we'll take about 3 or 4 more breaths here. Softening the muscles in the face, in the fingers, and in the toes. And then when you're ready, just go ahead and switch the feet, place the other ankle in front. Notice how that feels. Feels really different in one of my hips. That doesn't necessarily mean that one hip is tighter. It actually feels like that knee has sunk lower to the ground. So on this side, with this slight change of angle for the hips, the hip actually feels more open, but it is a little less comfortable. We'll take about 3 or 4 more breaths here. Go ahead and place your hands on that front shin. We'll just do some seated cat-cows. See, already my hips want to be a little bit lower. So grabbing onto that front shin as you inhale, bring the heart forward, bring the elbows and shoulders back, a slight lift to the chin. As you lengthen the front of the body. As you exhale, pull the belly button in. Press the heart towards the back of the room. The shoulders and elbows now come forward a little bit as the arms straighten. The chin will slightly dip as you reach the crown of the head towards the front of the room. Inhale, open the heart back up again, shoulders back. And exhale, round, shoulders forward. Go back and forth. And there's a lot going on here. There's the movement in the neck, the movement in the shoulders, but there's also that movement in the hips that I think can often be overlooked as we roll kind of from pubic bone back to tailbone, changing the tilt in those hips. One more in each direction. And we'll meet back at a neutral spine. Fingertips down by your sides, straighten the elbows, stretch the hands out. Like you're trying to touch as far away from the body as possible. And it's just a light grazing of the floor. We're not, collapsing down towards the floor. We're staying nice and lifted. Leave the right hand down, reach the left arm up alongside the ear. Walk that right hand out until that left hip gets light. When it does, press into that right hand, gluing that left hip back down as you lengthen through that left shoulder. And take a soft bend in that right elbow if you'd like. Just make sure the right shoulder doesn't sort of just come up into the ear. Next, inhale, open the heart slightly towards the ceiling so that left arm will come a little bit behind the midline. Lift the gaze. As you exhale, bring this left hand down to the right hip, palm up, rounding the spine slightly so that left shoulder comes forward. Inhale, reach that left arm back up and open again. And exhale, round. Go back and forth here. Inhaling and exhaling. And just moving with your breath here. Finding something that feels good. Remaining strong and stable through that right arm. Still not hanging on the shoulder. Next time you find that left arm up towards the ceiling, pause. Big breath in. Exhale, take another little side bend to the right. Maybe a little bit deeper this time. And inhale all the way back up. Switch. Left hand comes down. Right arm up alongside the ear. Walk that left hand out until the right hip gets light. When it does, glue that hip back down, lengthening out the right shoulder. You're really sort of pushing into that left hand to help ground that right hip. And then the movement is up towards the shoulder. Left shoulder's out of the ear. Maybe a little bend in that left elbow. Next inhale, open the heart slightly towards the ceiling. And exhale, bring that right hand down towards the left hip. Pause for a moment here. Really let that right shoulder come forward. And then we'll go back and forth. Inhaling and exhaling. You get to determine the pace. Following your breath, you get to determine the range of motion. Move in a way that feels good. Next time you find that right arm up towards the ceiling, pause. Big breath in. Exhale, take one more side bend to the left. Still grounding that right hip. One more breath here. Inhale all the way back up. Arms reach up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. So this forward fold is not about rounding the spine. So let's say you don't get to lay your chest down on the floor. Most of us don't. But we're not rounding the spine and trying to get our nose down on that front ankle. So even if we're up high a little bit, I want you to pull the shoulders back and open the chest. That's okay, you can be up on fingertips here. Those elbows are soft and down towards the floor. Maybe you're folded a little bit deeper. That's fine, same principles apply. The spine does not change. Shoulders out of the ears, chest open, breathing freely. Feel free to move the head around a little bit, loosening up that upper back. Take another breath here. Inhale all the way back up, arms reach up overhead. Note which ankle you have in front. Float the knees, uncross the feet, tippy toes down on the floor. Now my tendency is for my knees to go out to the side, so I'm gonna hold them in nice and tight. You can even grab a block if you'd like and hold it between your knees. Hope I don't regret that move. Lift the heart, and then maybe float that right foot knee height. Bring it back down. Float the left foot knee height. Bring it back down. Float both feet knee height, and maybe whoop, extend. Take another breath here. Exhale, release. Other ankle in front. Arms reach up overhead. And exhale, forward fold. Wherever you end up, back those arms up a little bit. Soften the elbows. Elbows are heavy. Down towards the floor. Shoulders moving towards the hips. Chest is open. Feel free to move the head and neck around a little bit. Take another breath here. And inhale all the way back up. Arms reach up overhead. Bring fingertips down behind you. And it really is just fingertips. Lift the knees. Uncross the feet. Maybe place your feet about mat distance. Now we're just gonna move these hips around a little bit. You might have to adjust your feet, bring them out, or a little longer, a little tighter, in or out a little bit. This is just a starting point, a starting suggestion, but we're gonna let the knees rock to the right, and then to the left, and just go back and forth here a little bit. Just warming those hips up, rotating on the heels. One more in each direction. Meet back at center. Let both knees fall to the right, and then we're going to leave them there. So let's find two right angles. So I'm going to Walk my right foot out a little bit so it's in line with the knee. Flex the foot and spread the toes. Left knee is in line with the right heel. Left heel is in line with the left knee. And then I'm going to try and sit upright a little bit. Turn towards that right knee. My left hip is not down on the floor, maybe someday, but today's not that day. And then go ahead and fold towards that right knee. I can definitely feel I'm a little bit heavier on the right side here, so I'm going to work on sort of pushing myself back to a more even stance. So it's as though, again, I'm not trying to get my nose on my right knee. That doesn't do much for me. I'm trying to get my heart past the right shin. One more breath. Lift the heart and torso back up again. Turn the heart forward and switch the legs. So now both knees go off to the left. I need to adjust a little bit again to get a right angle in that left knee. So my left knee is in line with the hip, heel in line with the knee. Same thing's going to be on the right side. Knee in line with hip and heel in line with knee. Turning my heart now towards that left knee, forward fold. It's less so for me on this side than it was the other, but I can still feel myself sort of hanging to the left a little bit. I'll try and center that out. Take one more breath here. There's definitely a stretch happening in the left, but I can really feel the internal rotation on the right. Bring yourself all the way back up again. Turn back towards center. Go ahead and have a seat in the exact shape that you started the class. Sit up nice and tall and just notice how you feel. We'll go ahead and meet at hands and knees. Blocks up towards the top of the mat. Blanket can be, underneath the knees, a thin layer, as long as it won't get in the way, or off to the side. Index fingers pointed forward, heels of the hands under the heads of the shoulders, not back under the armpits. Creases of the elbows turn forward, knees under the hips, feet behind the knees. Draw some circles with those hips. And those circles can be small, right around the knees if you'd like, or they can be big. They can be all the way back to the heels, all the way off to the other side, up towards the wrists and back around. Totally up to you. Change direction. Take another breath here. Meet back at that neutral spine. Curl the toes under. We want to get the ball mounts of the feet all the way to the floor. So the whole toe is down on the floor. We're not up on tippy toes. Really tuck those toes under. And if that means you have to lift the knees a little bit to get there, then so be it. But we're going to sit back on those heels. Try not to let your heels go out to the sides. Keep your heels in line with the center of the hips. Interlace the fingers. Roll those wrists around. Pause. Switch the interlacing of the fingers, other thumb in front, and roll the wrists in the other direction. Take one more breath here. Release the hands back down to the floor. Float the feet. Wiggle the toes. Roll those ankles around. Let that broken toe pose go. Right leg reaches back. Toes down on the floor. Press back that right heel. Find something that feels good somewhere on the back of that right leg. Probably the most obvious spot will be the calf. But maybe we can take this movement up a little bit further. Maybe we can get even past the knee. By lifting the gaze, reach the ribs forward just a little bit. Bring that tailbone down just a little bit. Straighten the right knee just a little bit. Get a little bit into the hamstring there. Not a ton, but a smidge. Take one more breath. Press firmly into the top of the left foot. Float that right leg, just hip height. Bend the right knee. Take the right knee up towards the right shoulder. Place the right foot outside the right hand. So it's a little bit wide. My foot is off my main mat. And then you can make some circles here. You can go side to side with the hips. You can go front to back with the hips. Whatever feels good to you. Take one more breath. And release. Reach that right leg back again and knee down. Left leg reaches back. Toes curl under on the floor. Press back that left heel. And again, kind of the obvious spot you'll probably feel this is in that left calf. But let's see if we can't move that up the chain a little bit. So reach the heart forward a little bit. Lift the gaze. Reach the heart forward. Pull the belly in. Reach that left hip forward a little bit. Straighten the left knee a little bit more. Take one more breath here. Oh, that feels pretty darn good. Press firmly into the top of the right foot. Float the left leg, just hip height. Bend the left knee up towards the left shoulder. Place the foot outside the hand. And rock around in that left hip. Finding what your hips need. It does not have to be, probably won't be, the same thing my hips need. We all woke up in our own body this morning. Take another breath. Leave the left foot where it is. Bend deeply into that left knee. Curl the right toes under. Pick up the right knee. Step the right foot outside the right hand. You can grab your blocks if you'd like. So just the slightest turn out of the toes here. So I'm going to leave my toes actually where they are. They're just on the edges of my green mat. And then I'm going to place my heels on the mat, just barely. So there's a slight turn out of the toes. And then drop the hips down a little bit lower. Lift the heart a little bit higher. Maybe bring forearms to the thighs, heart a little bit higher, hips a little bit lower. Hands to the thighs. Drop the hips down a little bit lower. Lift the heart a little bit higher. Now watch that your arches aren't collapsing or all the weight kind of in that big toe. Get some weight into the heels and into the pinky side of the feet. Maybe hands can come to heart center as you drop the hips, maybe even as low as your knees. Working on shoulders over hips. Take one more breath. Release the hands, lift the hips. Heel toe, walk the feet in underneath you. Till you've got the feet parallel, heels under the center of the hips, All 10 toes pointed forward, and enjoy a forward fold. It's our first one of the day, so keep those knees nice and soft. You can let the arms dangle, you can grab opposite elbows. Shake the head around a little bit if you'd like, shimmy the shoulders. Breathe. Take 2 more breaths. Leave the knees soft. Slide the hands up the shins to just below the kneecaps. Straighten the elbows. So your shoulders should lift to about hip height. Pull the belly in. Tailbone is lifting. If I lock my knees here, my tailbone actually comes down. I want my tailbone lifted, so I want to soften those knees and lift the tailbone. Exhale, forward fold. Slide those hands up the shins again, straighten the elbows. Shoulders back, belly engaged. Exhale, forward fold. One more time, inhale, halfway lift. Shoulders back, tailbone lifted, shins forward. Exhale, fold. Deep bend in those knees. Inhale all the way up, arms reach up overhead. Exhale, heart center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release, plant the hands, step the left foot to the back of the mat. Far enough back, and you can use blocks here if you'd like, far enough back that you can get right knee over right ankle and hip in line with knee. So don't let that right hip be up and out. Chest is open, shoulders back. Bring that left knee straight down. Leave the left hand under the left shoulder. It can be on a block if you'd like. Reach that right arm up. Drop the hips a little bit lower. Take another breath here. Exhale, release. Right hand comes back down. Walk yourself up that right leg. Belly in, ribs in. Again, tailbone down. We want to maintain a neutral spine as much as possible, even though that left knee is further back from the hip. Reach arms up overhead. Bend into that right knee just a little bit deeper. Take one more breath here. Exhale, release. Hands come down around. Curl those left toes under. Again, you can use blocks if you'd like. Pick up the back knee. Step the left foot forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward and down. Maybe grab those blocks again. Step your right foot to the back of the mat. Far enough back that you can get left knee over ankle and hip in line with knee. Right knee comes straight down. Leave the right hand under the right shoulder, block or floor. Reach that left arm up. Bend that left knee a little bit deeper. Take another breath here. Bring that left hand back down. Walk yourself up the left leg. Belly in, ribs in, neutral spine, so tailbone down. Reach arms up overhead. And maybe bend that left knee a little bit deeper. Take one more breath. Exhale, release. Plank pose. So top of a push-up. Heels of the hands are under the heads of the shoulders. Heels of the feet are over the toes. Belly is in, but chest is open. So while we're pushing the floor away, we're not rounding the spine here. Reach the crown of the head forward, heels back. Rock forward onto the tippy toes. Bring the knees down. Lift the gaze, shoulders back, elbows back as you lower slow and controlled all the way to your belly. Heels of the hands are at about your waist. Thumbs are at your lower ribs. Press firmly into the tops of the feet, kneecaps lifted. Elbows towards one another, back down towards the heels. Inhale, lift head, heart, shoulders. Exhale, release. 3 more, just like that. Inhale, lift. Exhale, release. Don't forget to set up the lower body. Inhale, lift. Exhale, release. Keep an eye on those pinky toes for this last one. Make sure they stay grounded. Inhale, lift. Lift a little bit higher. Exhale, release. One hand on top of the other. Rest your forehead on your hands. Bend the knees and wave the feet from side to side. Take another breath here. Release the feet. Press yourself up and back to child's pose. So let those big toes come to touch. Knees can be outer hip distance or wider. Hips to the heels, pose of the child. Let that upper back relax. You can have hands stacked under your forehead, arms out in front or arms back by your feet. Take another breath here. Curl the toes under. Walk the hands back towards the knees. Lift the hips. Extend the legs. Straighten out the feet. Forward fold at the back of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward and down. Inhale all the way up. Arms reach up overhead. Exhale, heart center. Bring the left hand behind the back. Bring the right arm up towards the ceiling and take a forward fold. Right hand heading for that left knee. Not the left ankle, not the left big toe, but just below that left knee, on the shin. Straighten the right elbow, soften the right knee as much as you can without the heel leaving the floor. Your left hand is back here to kind of let you know what's going on. The right hip is dropping, left hip is lifting. Turn, look over that left shoulder. If you've got a clear view of the ceiling, if you feel like your shoulders are actually stacked, go ahead and reach that left arm up. Take one more breath here. Exhale, release, untwist. Inhale all the way back up. Bring the right hand behind the back. Left hand is going to come down just below that right knee. Straighten the left elbow. Soften the left knee. Turn, look over the right shoulder. Now I don't get as far on this side as I do the other. My shoulders are a little less stacked this time. So while I can still reach that right arm up, I don't want to just crank the hand back. I want the shoulder moving back. So it might be a better idea for me to leave the hand behind my back and use that leverage to pull that right shoulder back. but you decide what works best for you. One more breath. Exhale, release, untwist. Inhale all the way up, arms reach up overhead. And exhale, heart center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release. Walk yourself out to plank pose. Top of a push-up. Rock forward, knees down. Lower slow and controlled all the way to your belly. Leave your right hand where it is. Open the left arm out to a T, palm down on the floor. We're going to press into the right hand and roll onto our left side. So the first thing you want to figure out is if you need to adjust this left hand. You can bring the left hand a little closer to the hip. You can bring it up a little bit. Whatever feels best to you. We want the palm down on the floor, however, and as we press that left inner elbow down, you might even feel the shoulder lift. So engaging that arm. Right elbow is nice and high. One final option would be to bend the right knee, knee up towards the ceiling, placing the right foot on the floor, just behind that left thigh. So it's not back behind you here. If you want to open that hip, the foot needs to be closer to the thigh and knee reaching up. Keep pressing that left inner elbow down. The priority is that left shoulder. Take another breath here. Exhale, release. Untwist. Switch the arms. So now right arm is out at a T, palm down. Left elbow is bent as it would be in cobra. Roll onto your right side. Get that right arm set up first. So press the inner elbow down. Maybe that right shoulder even lifts up off the floor just a smidge. It's certainly not pressing hard down into the floor, like that's not the direction. But as you press down the inner elbow, the shoulder might lift. And then you do have the option to bend that left knee, knee up towards the ceiling, foot on the floor, just behind that left hamstring, or right hamstring. Take another breath here. Exhale, release. Back down onto your belly. Press yourself back to either child's pose or, if you'd like, downward facing dog. In either pose, you can shift the weight from side to side. Keep the shoulders out of the ears. Take another breath here. And we will meet in plank pose. Top of a push-up. Right knee is going to come straight down. Right foot wanders off to the right. Drop that left heel. Reach that left arm up and alongside the ear. So again, we're lengthening the whole left side of the body here. So we're grounding into the pinky toe side of that left foot and reaching out the left shoulder. You can stay right here, or option to float that left leg just hip height. One more breath. Exhale, release.
Back to plank pose. Left knee comes straight down. Left foot wanders off to the left. Drop that right heel. Reach the right arm up and alongside the ear. Grounding into the whole outside edge of that right foot and reaching out the right shoulder. Keeping that length, you do have the option to float that right heel, but it doesn't get soft and sort of losing all that length. We want to keep reaching in opposite directions. One more breath. Exhale, release. Plank pose. Right knee comes down again. This time we're going to step the left foot up outside the left hand. Grab your blocks. Start with the blocks on the highest setting. You can always drop down. We're going to roll up on that left heel. We want the right hip to end up over the right knee. Left toes lifted, heel grounded, and as much as possible, extend that left leg. You're not locking the knee here. We're not sort of dropping the back of the knee down towards the floor. We're extending the leg and taking the underside of that left hip up. This would be down, this would be up. Now, if you'd like, you can melt your heart a little bit further forward. Woo! Getting in deep to that left hamstring. If you're feeling a lot of opening today in that left leg, you can always slide that left heel forward. You would lift the heart again, slide that left heel forward, or maybe it's a combo of also bringing that right knee back. And you can head for kind of a cockeyed splits. But we want the shoulders, if that's what you're going for, we want the shoulders as much as possible over the hips. Right hip forward, left hip back. So if your shoulders are slightly tilted off to the right, my guess is so are your hips. We want to square off to the front of the room. Take another breath here. Go ahead and release from that as gracefully as possible. Plant the hands. Soften that left knee. Step back to plank pose. Left knee comes straight down. Right foot steps up outside the right hand. I recommend blocks again on the highest setting. As we roll up on that right heel and shift that left hip over the left knee. Flexing the foot, spread the toes. Watch that the knee isn't just collapsed and locked. The leg is active and you're actively picking up that right hip. Kind of tilting that right hip up and back. You do have the option to melt the heart down inside that left or right leg. You also have the option for those sort of cockeyed, slightly crooked splits. Shoulders back over the hips, right hip back, left hip forward. I do like to keep the back toes curled under. It just helps me keep the alignment in that left leg. I find a lot of little kids, especially when they're doing the splits, they drop kind of to the inside of that leg. And so, now I've got a lot more weight on the inside of that left knee. I want to keep it squared off, and having the toes curled under helps me stay there. Heart back. Take one more breath. Exhale, release. Plank pose. to either child's pose or downward facing dog. Take one more breath here. We will meet in a forward fold at the back of the mat. So walk your hands back to meet your feet. One way or another. All 10 toes are pointed forward. Enjoy a forward fold for a breath or two. Again, letting those arms dangle if you want, or grab opposite elbows. And then go really soft in the knees. Sort of let everything collapse down towards the floor. There's no more pushing those hips up. They're heavy. And we're going to roll up slow and control. The arms are heavy. The shoulders are heavy. The head is heavy. Eventually stacking one vertebrae on top of the next. All the way up. Till the crown of the head is reaching for the ceiling. Shoulders can come back and down. And breathe here for a moment. I want to get into those quadriceps just a little bit. So we're going to have a little bit of balance here. If you would like, you can, move over to the wall. Place a hand on the wall. We're going to start standing on our right leg. So if you are using a piece of furniture or the wall, have your right hip towards that. Shifting the weight into that right foot. We're not letting that right hip pop. We're not locking that right knee back behind us. We're standing up nice and tall. As we ground into that heel, we're lifting up towards the ceiling. Belly is in. We need the belly engaged for balance. Then when you're ready, we're going to bend that left knee, reach back, take hold. So as I take hold of that foot, my knee definitely comes forward and out. But once I've got hold of that left ankle, I want to bring that left knee back down and reach it for the right inner ankle. Ooh, feel that in my quads. Almost instantly. Belly in, tailbone down. We're looking to lengthen from knee to belly button. So if that knee starts to come forward, that line gets shorter. We want that knee pointed straight down, and then also belly button lifting. Take another breath here. And release. Now we're going to shift the weight into that left foot. So if you need to turn around, place your left hand on the wall or a piece of furniture, go ahead and do so. Ground into that left hip and reach up through the crown of the head. We're not collapsing onto that left leg. We're strong. Belly is in. When you're ready, bend that right knee, reach back, take hold. Right knee is reaching for the left inner ankle. Belly is in. Remember what we're trying to do here. We're lengthening from right knee to belly button. Or away from belly button, I should say. So if that knee comes forward or up or, out and up, we shorten that line. To lengthen that line, reach that knee down, reach the belly button up. Take one more breath here. And release. Separate the feet outer hip distance. All 10 toes pointed forward. Soften the knees a little bit, just sort of grounding into the heels. And that softening of the knees is not just knees forward, it's butt back. As though you were going to sit into a chair and you realized, oh shoot, someone moved it. And then we're gonna leave the lower half of the body stable. From the hips down is statue maker. They stay put. And the upper body, we're just gonna swing it around. This move can be small. Maybe your hands just tap opposite hips. Maybe it's a little bit bigger and the hand kind of comes around and touches the opposite rib. Maybe it's really big and the hand is coming all the way up to the shoulder. Maybe it changes as we go. But we're trying not to take the hips and the knees with us. Start to slow it down a little bit. And release. And come all the way down to the mat. How you choose to get there is up to you. I'm going to work on my squat as I go. We will meet lying down on our backs. Not too bad today. With knees bent. Pull the right knee in towards the chest. Hook the hands low down towards that right hip, on that right hamstring. Ground the shoulders. Lift that right heel. Open the toes. The knee does not need to be all the way straight, just in an angle that you can get the sole of the foot up towards the ceiling. Heel lifting. And then we're going to roll that right ankle around in circles. Move in a way that feels good. Bend that right knee, place the foot back down. Left knee comes in towards the chest, give it a good squeeze. And then go ahead, hook the hands low, interlacing the fingers down towards that left hip, ground the shoulders, flex the foot, send the heel up towards the ceiling. Open the toes, roll the ankle around in circles. Take another breath here. Bend that left knee, place the foot back down, leave the knees bent. Open the arms to a T or goal post. If you go for goal post, make sure your knuckles and your wrists and your elbows are all resting on the floor. If it's a strain for any reason, I often see people their wrists don't come down. It does not look comfortable. Find a place where you can rest, even if it's somewhere in between goal posts and arms extended. Hips off to the left. Knees in and over to the right. Now you can make any sort of choice you'd like as long as that left shoulder stays grounded. So you can take your right hand to that knee. You could place a block in between the knees. You could extend a leg. Whatever feels good to you. Last night as I went to bed, I was having a hard time settling my body. I was laying on my side. I left the knees to the side and kind of gave myself a twist, opening the heart up towards the ceiling. And I got to hang out there for as long as I wanted because, it was just me. Wasn't directing anyone else. I was only listening to my body. thought to myself when I rolled to the other side, I'll do it again. And then I fell asleep. One more breath here. Bring the knees all the way back up. Set your hips off center to the right. Bring the knees in and over to the left. And again, it's all up for grabs. Just try and keep the right shoulder grounded. This colder weather just dries out our skin, so oftentimes when I do some stretching or some twists, I can feel my skin just sort of pulling. Make sure you drink lots of water. We think of drinking a lot of water when we're sweating, but in the heart of winter, when it's cold out, the air is so dry, it just takes all the moisture out of you. Lotion is good, but water is better. Bring the knees all the way back up. Only have a few minutes for a Shavasana here, so if there's anything else your body needs, go ahead and address that. Eventually making your way to a comfortable resting position. If your back is bothering you, have knees bent, feet wide, knees falling in on one another, or you can have legs extended. You can also have a little lift under the knees with some pillows or blankets, even blocks, or prop your feet up over the edge of a couch, bed, or chair. And breathe. Find some stillness. Find your spot on this planet. If your schedule permits, feel free to stay in Shavasana a little bit longer. Otherwise, maybe start to wiggle fingers and toes, wrists and ankles, arms and legs. Eventually bending your knees, rolling over to your right side, pausing there for a breath or two until you're ready to press yourself up to a comfortable seated position. So as Christmas approaches, there's a lot going on.
holiday parties, end of the year approaches. Holiday parties, potlucks, cookies in break rooms. Allow yourself to enjoy. Allow yourself a certain level of indulgence. But do so with care. Take care of yourself as you're standing at that holiday work party or whatever it may be. Grounding into the heels, lifting through the crown of the head. When you find your mind wandering, even though you're in a conversation with someone, come back to your breath. Come back to your spot on this planet. And that takes practice. To be present for each conversation, for each observing of someone opening a present. It's super tempting to have our minds wander. When you notice that has happened, come back. Back to your breath, back to your body. I'm wishing you peace and joy and love and light. Om Shanti 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 and Namaste.